Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic, the Registrar, University Librarian, Provost of the College of Medicine, Deputy Provost, Dean Faculty of the Social Sciences, Deans of other faculties, the postgraduate school and our students, Directors of institutes, Heads of departments, distinguished girls, ladies and gentlemen. The 14th in the series of the University of Ibadan inaugural lectures for the 2015-2016 session will be delivered by Professor Helen Osinowo of the Department of Psychology on behalf of the Faculty of the Social Sciences. Born on 12 February 1951 to the late Mr. Patrick Musa Oyakiri of Ivioge Agenebode and High Chief Mrs. Grace Titi Bossi of Iviobwa near Agenebode, Edo State. Professor Helen Osinowo Bossi had her primary school education at St. William's Catholic School, Ilorin, from 1956 to 1963, and her secondary school education at the Notre Dame Girls Secondary School, Oro in Kwara State, from 1964 to 1968. She had her higher school certificate course at Queen's School, Ilorin, from 1969 to 1970, and attended the School of Nursing, University College Hospital, from January 1970 to August 1973, graduating as a registered nurse RN and was awarded the Nightingale Silver Medal as the best in her class. She later attended the School of Midwifery, Wesley Gill Hospital, Ilesha, where she obtained the registered midwife RN Nigeria certificate in September 1974. She started work as a staff nurse at the Emmaus Hospital, East Kilbride, near Glasgow, Scotland, in November 1974. She attended Glasgow Caledonian University from September 1975 to June 1976 and moved to London in September 1976 to complete her studies at the University of Westminster, where she obtained BA Social Sciences degree in June 1978. She participated under the National Youth Service Corps scheme at the Ministry of Justice and also Agodi Prison, Ibadan, from August 1978 to August 1979. She later registered for and obtained her MSc degree from our Department of Sociology in 1981, specializing in criminology. She also registered for and obtained, from the Department of Psychology of this university in December 1983, as well as PhD in psychology, also clinical psychology in August 1990. Professor Osinowo was appointed as an assistant lecturer in psychology effective from 15th April 1983. She was promoted as lecturer 2, 1st October 1986, lecturer 1, 1st October 1993, senior lecturer 1st October 1996, and professor 1st October 2004. She thus became the first professor of clinical psychology in the Faculty of Social Sciences, the first female professor of clinical psychology in this university, and the first female Edo State indigene to occupy the chair of clinical psychology. Professor Helen Osinowo has to date successfully supervised 15 PhD, 2 MPhil, 20 LCS, 100 MSc, and over 200 BSc students. 4 of our former students are now in the professorial grade in other universities. She has over 90 publications, including chapters in several books and technical reports. Within this university, she has, among several others, been the acting head, Department of Psychology, 1st June 2001 to 31st May 2003, and substantive head, Department of Psychology of the same university, 1st June 2009 to 31st July 2013. Outside the university, she is a UK Trenchard psychologist and member of the following professional bodies: Nigerian Psychological Association, NPA, British Psychological Society, Nigerian Society for the Study of Pain, the Network Psychological Studies of Women, Society for Psycho-Oncology in Nigeria, and Nigerian Association of Clinical Psychologists, NACP. She is the immediate past Vice President of the NACP, an affiliate member, International Federation of Psychotherapy, and fellow of the following bodies: Nigerian Association of Clinical Psychologists, the Nigerian Psychological Association, the Institute of Policy Management Development, and Center for Peace and Conflict. She is also a member of the Order of the Knights of St. Mulumba in the Catholic Church. Professor Osinowo has served as an external examiner to Benue State University, University of Lagos, University of Jos, Obafemi Awolowo University, Northwestern University, Mafi Campus, South Africa, and Redeemer University. Professor Osinowo is married to Sir Professor Olu Osinowo, a cardiothoracic surgeon, and the marriage is blessed with children. I now call on Professor Osinowo to deliver a lecture titled "A Promising Baby in Turbulent Waters: Psychology, Health, and the Justice Systems in Nigeria."
A promising baby in turbulent waters: psychology, healthcare, and the criminal justice systems in Nigeria. The Vice Chancellor, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Administration, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic, Registrar, Librarian, Provost of the College of Medicine, Dean of the Faculty of the Social Sciences, Dean of the Postgraduate School, Deans of other faculties and of students, Director of Institutes, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I am grateful to the Almighty God for giving me the breath of life and good health, knowledge, to deliver this inaugural lecture today. I appreciate the University of Ibadan authorities under the able leadership of our Vice Chancellor, Professor Abel Idowu Olayinka, for the honor and privilege given to me to deliver this inaugural lecture on this blessed day. On behalf of the Faculty of the Social Sciences, through the Department of Psychology, which was established in 1976. The first inaugural lecture from the Department of Psychology, titled Psychology and Social and Economic Development, was delivered in 1997 by Professor D.C.E. Ugwegu, the pioneer head of Department of Psychology, University of Ibadan, of the Social Psychology Unit in this department, in this university. The second inaugural lecture, titled Dancing in the Social Jungle, was delivered by Professor S.K. Balogun, a social and experimental psychologist. The third inaugural lecture is therefore the first to be delivered by the first female professor of clinical psychology and the first female head of Department of Psychology from the clinical psychology subspecialty. In Isaiah chapter 9, verse 6, it is written, "For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given. The government shall be upon his shoulders, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor." As the baby Jesus was born into this world for a purpose, but was rejected by men, so is psychology as a discipline born but rejected by many in Nigeria. Luke chapter 8, verses 22 to 24. The disciple went to Jesus and woke him up saying, "Master, Master, we are about to die." Jesus got up and gave an order to the wind and the stormy water. They died down and there was a great calm. In a similar way, the discipline of psychology is in the waters of professionalism, experiencing turbulence from other professionals, such as in the healthcare and criminal justice systems. I want to enjoin the psychologists and the government to awake and still the storm. In order to formulate a theme for this inaugural lecture, I did not have to search high and low. I consulted with my colleagues in the department, took a bird's eye view of our polity, and in the end, it was evident that amongst the established disciplines in academia, jurisprudence, criminal justice system, and healthcare in Nigeria, psychology is a baby. And in the Nigerian milieu, its growth and development have been turbulent over the past few decades because of the Nigerian factor, as will be made evident in this discourse. In the more advanced and better organized countries, the discipline of psychology came of age over a century ago and has been contributing in no small measure to the understanding and development of healthcare and the criminal justice systems, to mention but a few. Regulating body for the practice of psychology. It is evident that without a regulatory body, any profession will find unqualified people performing duties that they are neither qualified nor trained for. In many countries, clinical psychology is regulated as a healthcare profession. With the application of psychology to every facet of human endeavor, human health and living, the time has come for the establishment of the Psychological Council of Nigeria by an act of the National Assembly, Abuja. For now, there is no licensing body, and so just about anyone literally can lay claim to being a psychologist, obtain employment as a psychologist, and practice as a psychologist. My training. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, I had been very fortunate that in commencing my education, I had an excellent background in nursing, wherein I was able to gather much experience due to the knowledge gained from my trainings in Nigeria and outside the shore of this country. I traveled to the UK, United Kingdom in 1974 and got employed. I got my BSc honors in sociology, specialization in criminology, criminal behavior, and psychology. On return to Nigeria as a youth corper, I spent 3 months in the Ministry of Justice, Oyo State, attached to the Director of Public Prosecution, DPP office. I was later posted in the to the Nigerian Prison Service in Ibadan. In September 1986, I was granted study leave to travel to the United Kingdom for a one-year pre-doctoral clinical psychology training at the Institute of Psychiatry, London. This period afforded me the opportunity to work very closely with Professor Gisli Gudjonsen. And I had the opportunity to meet with Professor Ising and Professor Beck. In the company of Professor Gudjonsen, we were involved in cases at the Old Bailey Court and the Croydon Crown Court, the Holloway Prison for Women, the Wormwood Scrubs Prison, East Acton, London. This afforded me the opportunity to work with the mentally disordered offenders and individuals with adult psychological problems, child and adolescent children with various forms of mental health issues. The promising baby, called clinical psychology. The American Psychological Association defines clinical psychology as a clinical discipline that involves the provision of diagnostic, assessment, treatment plan, and prevention. Clinical psychologists work in a variety of settings, including hospitals, mental health clinics, independent practices, the correctional institutions, and employee assistance programs in various industries. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, psychologists study the antecedent factors, the behavioral patterns involved, carry out formulation, and then apply psychological treatment modalities such as cognitive behavior therapy and dialectical behavior therapy, anger management therapy, therapeutic interventions. There is an issue in our national policy. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, in August 2013, the then Honorable Minister of Health, Professor Oyeguchi Chukwu, presented the national policy for mental health services delivery in Nigeria, which was adopted at the National Council on Health, Federal Ministry of Health, 2013. The said policy document showed a lack of understanding of the role that psychologists are capable of playing in the mental health system, in particular in the healthcare system in general. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, I brought up my own personal training pathway so as to typify the kind of training we undergo to become clinical and forensic psychologists. It would appear that in Nigeria, the role and vital contributions to the healthcare system are not yet fully actualized. An analysis of the employment of psychologists in our tertiary health institutions shows only a token number of psychologists employed in these institutions, with the exception of the Federal Medical Center, Makurdi, with 49 clinical psychologists, Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital, Yaba, Lagos, with 14, and Neuropsychiatric Hospital, Arrow, with 6. A figure of Nigeria is included in this presentation with the number of clinical psychologists in the various hospitals. Psychology has contributed immensely to the healthcare system, and I will enumerate the various researches on oncology cases, A Bose Osinowo matrix is also shown here, and this typifies a template for psychological analysis and treatment. The study by Tomoloju and Osinowo 2012 has been a great contribution to knowledge in the area of cervical cancer, while Osinowo and Oguyinka 1995 contributed in the area of psychosocial predictors, among others. Cardiovascular health. In a patient who has complete heart block diagnosed, the following psychological impacts are recognized: state of shock, perception of the illness. In our cultural milieu, most patients attribute the illness to some magical supernatural causes: fear of death and burden of care, amongst others. Olukolade and Osinowo 2016 have contributed immensely to the understanding of cardiovascular health, example of stroke and psychological management. Sudden death is also another area where Osinowo, Ehige, Sumola, and Lawoyi, year 2000, were able to edit a book on sudden death. Osinowo 2000 and others found various factors relating sudden death to psychological issues. Diabetes is another area that we have carried out research on. The issue of burns was also researched in by Ezimokwe and Osinowo. And we found that female caregivers of burn survivors are more prone to depression than males, and that social support is an essential ingredient for good quality of life among burns injury survivors and their caregivers. As we are all seated here, we belong to various family groups. Whenever our family members are experiencing turbulence emanating from various physical and mental disorders, we must provide that social support which will buffer the stress being experienced by the patient or the client. Psychology in dentistry has not been left out. Kole Osinowo and Ahigbe 2013 have found and have researched and found the various psychological models useful for ameliorating the issue of dental anxiety. Gerontology is another area, which means that psychologists can work in the geriatric hospitals or geriatric units in various hospitals. Osinowo Shodende 2001 revealed that non-psychiatric patients who are elderly and more internally oriented, less depressed, and are more satisfied than the psychiatric patients. Obosi Osinowo 2016 found a significant influence of neuroticism on post-traumatic stress disorder. Ineme and Osinowo and Aguiyi 2010 found that post-traumatic stress realities of some kidnapped persons in Nigeria have serious implication for engaging psychologists to work along with law enforcement agents so that the individuals who have been kidnapped can be properly rehabilitated. Glaucoma. My Vice Chancellor, sir, the ophthalmology department can also benefit from the services of a clinical psychologist. Adekeye and Osinowo 2016 worked on glaucoma, and it was found that Emotion-focused therapy, problem-focused therapy were very efficacious in reducing emotionality in patients suffering from glaucoma. Sickle cell study has not been left out. Idemudia, Osinowo, Balogun, and Williams, 2001, found that those who are low on self-esteem manifested higher psychological disturbance than patients with high self-esteem. Pregnancy. Ladies seated here, and men who have wives. Psychologists have also been interested in the welfare of your pregnant women. And the research by Osinowo found that women do experience stress during pregnancy. Sexual adjustment during pregnancy is a big issue. And Osinowo, 1991, suggested the negotiated timetable. The negotiated timetable is crafted for couples so as to bring calmness to the family life. Menstruation. Secondary school students seated here and women who haven't got to the menopausal stage will benefit from this finding that have found that women who have not been pregnant before had more menstrual distress compared to mothers who have been pregnant beyond once or twice. The issue of menstruation and menarche are crucial in the reproductive lives of men and women. Psychologists can help with relaxation exercises, which can be taught to individuals experiencing this. Adult psychopathology has been a very crucial area of research for clinical psychologists. And the negative attitude towards mental illness is a big issue in Nigeria. Dákun dákun yà fún wẹ̀rẹ̀ ní kọ̀mọ̀kan yà fún. With talking drums. The expression in literal translation into English is, hear me, hear me. This person approaching is a madman. He has no insight. You are advised to avoid him at all costs. This more or less summarizes the general attitude of our people to mental illness. Psychologists can join members of the multidisciplinary health team to work on attitude change. We have excellent training in attitude change programs, and psychologists should contribute their quota, should be allowed to contribute their quota to national development. Oli Osinowo Adams in 1997 found that ejaculatory difficulties and several other sexual abnormalities occur in epilepsy, and this is still part of adult psychopathology. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, I have made unique contributions in the area of psycho-spiritual therapy, caregivers' burden for psychiatric patients, child psychopathology, Osinowo, year 2000, sexual, reproductive, and marital health. And marital satisfaction is another major area of research that I have been involved in. Osinowo and Adeneko Yefeso in 19 90 developed marital satisfaction scale. The various subsections are available for assessment of individuals who are experiencing marital distress, and psychologists can bring calmness to the turbulence associated with marital dissatisfaction. As I was preparing for this inaugural lecture, I felt that there was a need to carry out a situational report on the role of clinical psychologists in Nigeria, and 150 members of healthcare profession were studied as participants. Role of psychologists in the management of hypertension was an area which 26 resident doctors did not think that psychologists should have a role to play in the management of hypertension. There was a wide variation. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, time does not permit us on this platform to unfold the full results of this study, which I detailed in the inaugural lecture publication. Psychologists participate in the management of oncology, hypertension, diabetes, and other areas. The criminal justice system, which is the second major aspect of this inaugural lecture. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, criminal justice is the system of practices and institution of government directed at upholding social control, deterring and mitigating crime, or sanctioning those who violate laws with criminal penalties and rehabilitation efforts. Agencies of the criminal justice system are police, courts, and corrections. I am glad to see members of the agencies of the criminal justice system seated here. Thank you for that honor. During this research, I visited the High Court, and I have here representatives of the High Court, the Justice, and various other professionals. The courts are well represented here. I also have representatives from the prisons. They are all seated. Thank you very much for allowing me to carry out the investigation, and the details of the analysis will be found in the booklet. You will wonder what psychologists are doing in the prison or the courts. In the courts, psychologists can be expert witnesses. Statistics of population of prisons in Nigeria and psychologists are indicated in the figure. The 241 prisons in Nigeria have in their employment only 48 psychologists. Agodi Prison has close to 900 inmates with one qualified psychologist. What miracle can this one single psychologist perform in rehabilitating the inmates? Psychologists perform anger management programs in various prisons. They also are involved in the various assessment of maladjustment in the prison. My contribution to and research in criminological psychology dates back to 1980 to 82, when I first carried out a study on 123 female deviants in southwestern Nigeria. Because of time, I will not be able to go into various details, which you will find in the book. Self-harm among prison inmates has been studied by my collaborator as well. We developed self-harm urges scale, which is useful for assessing self-harm in the prison. Inaugural and Osinowo 2016, and the results are indicated. The area of victimology is a very neglected area, even among law enforcement agencies. When an individual becomes a victim of crime, very little attention is paid to the victim. The law enforcement agents often concentrate more on the offenders and the perpetrators. We need time to address the issues of the victim. In this line, Osinowo 1999 reported that individuals who are not emotionally stable, whom we refer to as neurotic individuals, expressed more fear of crime. Also, Idemudia Osinowo Nwachukwu reported the findings of a study on fear of fear amongst individuals who have experienced armed robbery. The issue of victims needs to be looked at. The paper recommended that the government of Oyo State should provide security and that the government should change the current protective attitude, evolve a neighborhood watch community policing, provide jobs for youths to reduce unemployment, which fuels armed robbery. Research on female criminality. In almost all the prisons in Nigeria, when compared to men, there are fewer women. But in this study, it was established that women are also involved in criminality, and the situation is getting worse. In 1983, Osinowo studied 102 diagnosed mentally disordered offenders in 4 correctional psychiatric institutions in southwestern Nigeria. These individuals were involved in wandering, assault occasioning bodily harm, breach of peace, attempted murder, stealing, armed robbery. The children and youths have not been left out. The study by Osinowo, Taiwo, Lawoyin, 2007 revealed that death of a parent, broken home, polygyny, predicted delinquency, individually and conjointly among children. It was concluded that familiar and environmental factors are more powerful predictors of self-reported delinquency compared to the psychological and intellectual factors. What does this mean? Parents seated here have a lot of responsibilities towards ensuring that their children are well socialized into the right culture. In this vein, Taiwo and Osinowo 2010 conducted a study that compared the efficacy of a multimodal intervention and psychodynamic-oriented group intervention on antisocial behavior among adolescents. The result has shown that psychologists can address the issues of antisocial behavior. Also, Udegbe and Osinowo in 1999 reported that youth deviance is on the increase. Equally, Adejuwon and Osinowo also reported the escalating youth violence in Nigeria today. Osinowo, Oli, and Adejuwon have reported the advantage of rational emotive behavior therapy for addressing issues related to post and pre-operative surgery. A survey of the knowledge and perception of criminal justice personnel was also carried out, and it was found that majority of the lawyers and police officers agree that psychologists have a role to play in the criminal justice system. This is a summary of the study which I carried out after I visited the Nigerian Bar Association for permission in Kwara State, and also in Ibadan. I have some members of the judiciary seated here from the High Court. I'm glad that you are here, and I hope that you will involve psychologists in assisting, because this is an evidence-based research finding, which means that you need us. Psychology and law are two sides in a coin. The police too need us. The immigration officers need us. The customs. Don't work in isolation, please. There's inter-agency cooperation. Please allow psychologists to play their role. Conclusions. Psychologists provide a broad range of treatment services designed to assist people in managing their lives more effectively and achieving greater satisfaction with themselves, their relationships, and their careers. Psychologists also provide diagnostic and testing services to help identify psychological problems in marriages, in schools. They assess various psychological problems, and they make recommendations about a person's potential adjustment in a variety of situations. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, I believe that psychology and law are different sides of the same coin. They should work in concert to obtain justice that is true, fair, and transparent. We can conclude from the study that all the stakeholders involved in the criminal justice, judges, lawyers, police, civil defense officers, acknowledged and appreciated the significant roles of psychologists in the criminal justice system. The federal government, through the Minister of Justice, Attorney General of the Federation, should take a cue from this and take positive, urgent actions towards the employment and incorporation of qualified clinical and forensic psychologists into our criminal justice system. Seminars and training workshops should also be requested from psychologists for all cadre of personnel in the system. Knowledge of psychological principles and models are required for effective and quality service delivery in this important aspect of our society. In criminal cases, the experienced psychologist's expertise is often invaluable to the court. Psychological evaluation of a defendant's history and current mental state of mind may aid in identifying psychological issues underlying criminal acts and may inform treatment recommendations, which are often an important part of any plea agreement. The role of psychologists in Nigerian criminal justice system is multifaceted and is still in its infancy and is evolving. Although law and psychology are perceived as two separate disciplines, in reality, they both share several commonalities, as both fields make assumptions about what causes people to act in certain ways. However, while the role of law is to regulate human behavior, the function of psychology is to understand, interpret, and propose amelioration in terms of psychosocial intervention. I want to highlight my involvement when I was in the UK during my sabbatical leave, when I received an email from somebody I didn't know who said, "Helen, would you be willing to provide psychological services to a Nigerian family?" And I readily said yes, because I heard of the words Nigerian family. I knew that there was turbulence. I got involved with a mother who was a single parent, and the 14-year-old daughter who had been taken into foster care. The social services needed a psychologist to assess the relationship between the mother and the child. I conducted parenting assessment, and I offered parent craft training. I also educated the mother about child protection, because the way we are responsible for our children in Nigeria in terms of leaving them to go on the streets to hawk, or leaving a 10-year-old at home by him or herself, is not acceptable in the United Kingdom. And in Nigeria, we've had so many cases of rape as a result of parents neglecting the care of their children. Psychologists are very much well-trained to assist in counseling such parents. This child was returned to the mother. They were reunited because I did some psychological work with the mother and the daughter, and they were willing to return to each other, and that was a success story. Also, I had the privilege in Shrewsbury, Stafford, South Staffordshire National Health Service to assess individuals who were cases of forensic mental health. In our various forensic mental health liaison work, I was fortunate to meet individuals who had problems, and psychologists were able to assist with risk assessment. And I had a case, a young man in his late 20s who killed the mother. The grandfather, that's the mother's father, and the aunt. And this individual was suffering from schizophrenia. When he was asked why he did this, he said that he was told in his voices which we refer to as auditory hallucination, that if he does not kill them first, and they will not go to heaven. He listened to the voice and he killed them. This was a very major case or client that I was involved in providing bereavement therapy. Many of us seated here would wonder why such a person should be provided with bereavement counseling after killing 3 members of his family. The major answer is that this individual was in turbulence, and he wanted to become calm by listening to the voice. The commands were very strong, and this destabilized him before he carried out their instructions. But it was not an easy case because he had spent 7 years in a maximum mentally disordered hospital, 2 years in a medium secure mental health institution, and I met him when he was at the low secure unit. Psychologists work at the maximum forensic mental health services, medium mental health services, and the low secure services by offering assessment, formulation, treatment planning, and rehabilitation. For all these services, I want to enjoin our leaders seated here to remember that you have promising babies seated here today. Great psychologists. Also in Aro, Lantoro, I met with a young man who killed the father. Lantoro Hospital is part of Aro Neuropsychiatric Hospital. And this is where the mentally disordered offenders are housed. Psychologists perform their assessment roles along with the psychiatrists, and they are able to make these individuals adjust better within the secure unit, and also prepare the individuals for rehabilitation. This individual whom I'm talking about killed the father. And he said the father was responsible for destroying the machine that makes his money. As at October, when I visited Lantoro for the supervision of the MSc clinical psychology students and the legal and criminological security students, this individual was still not facing the reality of life. Mental disorder disorientates individuals and they need care. We should not shy away from the fact that these individuals require care, just like anybody else. The most important thing is to understand them and be able to provide calming therapies. Recommendations. Based on the foregoing, Vice Chancellor, sir, I beg to specifically recommend the following based on my studies and my experience. Osinowo, Oli and Osinowo provided efficacy of psychoeducation for individuals suffering from epilepsy who needed that calming. And we should appreciate the fact that that is a major contribution. Psychologists use cognitive restructuring technique and other forms of relaxation, as we have found with the cases of dental anxiety and also menstrual distress, and also counsel women with dysmenorrhea and promote positive menstrual attitude. I recommend that psychologists should be employed to offer psychotherapies such as acceptance committed therapy, cognitive behavior therapy, amongst others, for health improvement and change in attitude, already established as a major contribution to clinical psychology practice, particularly to the psychological management of symptoms associated with menopause. The social and behavioral restructuring, as found by Osinowo, Kuleolowu, and Osinowo 2011, should be adopted for improvements in road infrastructure and traffic regulations enforcement. Osinowo, Sumola, and Fakolujo identified various psychological factors which are responsible for drivers who have been driving recklessly, and recommended that the Federal Road Safety should work with psychologists in order to change the negative attitudes of traffic, of individual drivers, as found also with the Okada drivers, who have been found to be aggressive. They require anger management program. And I have in the audience here one of my PhD students working on anger management in the prison and could be consulted for assistance. In order to manage stress at the workplace, psychological techniques should be applied. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, the Nigerian Psychological Association requests humbly that the federal government, through the Ministry of Health, should place psychology professionals in the scheme of service. Psychologists can work to bring down the stress levels of individuals working in various organizations. Hence, I enjoin the Human Resource Department to employ psychologists to assist with employee assistance program. I shall end this inaugural lecture with a famous words of the French-born America Quaker. I shall pass this through world but once. Any good thing, therefore, that I can do, or any kindness that I can show to any man or woman alive, let me do it now. Let me not postpone it. Let me not defer. Let me not neglect it, for I shall never pass this way again. The case of Oscar Pistorius is the most recent example of how psychological factors can mitigate the justice decision. We are all familiar with that case, how the judge reduced the sentencing of Oscar Pistorius. There are lots of psychological issues there. Don't ignore us. I enjoy you to get us involved. Acknowledgement. First and foremost, I give thanks and adoration to God Almighty, the creator of heaven and earth, who in his infinite mercy preserved my life and guided my soul to survive a ghastly accident and major illness for 3 years at my earlier period. I most heartily thank our current amiable, dependable, and hardworking Vice Chancellor, Professor Idowu Olayinka, and his caring wife, Mrs. Wunmi Olayinka, for their unfailing support. I also wish to thank the former Vice Chancellor, Professor Falashe, who appointed me between 2001 and 2003, Professor Bamiro, Professor Isaac Adewale, who is now the Honorable Minister of Health, for his guidance. The past deans, Professor Gbade Geshin and Abanihe Ogunkola Gaba Balogun, thank you for presenting me with a cordial or convenient environment to work in as a head of department. Thank you. Professor Olutayo, my current dean. My HOD, Professor Ehige. Members of the faculty board have contributed immensely towards making today a reality. Thank you. For the past several years, 33 years, I could not have singly run the department without able lieutenants, deputies, my coordinators, Dr. Oli, Dr. Mrs. Taiwo is from the United Kingdom for this inaugural lecture. Please, both of you stand up for recognition. These are some of my PhD students. They are now at professorial grade. Other former students, please stand up for recognition. You know yourselves. Thank you very much. My colleagues in the department, Mama Asagba, Mama Adejuwon, thank you. Dr. Oli, Dr. K.O. Taiwo, Dr. Catherine Chonwe, Dr. Alarakpe, Dr. Adebayo, Dr. Shenge, Dr. Ikori, Dr. Kurame, Dr. Ohahume. Dr. Ohahume is in Benue State for his sabbatical leave. He is here after going through a 14-hour journey. Thank you. And the non-academic staff, who often say, Mama stress. Our able departmental secretary, Baba, Mr. Tomori, Mr. Wolabi Etuk, Opopo Pius, Mrs. Adekola, my daughter, Mrs. Ajakalie, another daughter. Bosse, I thank you all. My teachers, Dr. Maria Callas, I pay tribute to Dr. Emmanuel Atolagbe, who played significant role in ensuring that I became a member of staff in the department. Thank you. His family members will receive that congratulatory message. Dr. David Cowell, Dr. Adenekon Yefeso, late Dr. Anwulora, our father, Dr. D.C. Igwegu, Baba of Psychology. Hail him, please. I remember at one staff meeting, Prof said, I don't want mediocrity in my department. That meant that everybody had to sit up. Maybe that was the beginning of my training in becoming Mama Stress. He wanted everything done right. He didn't want laziness. Research, he encouraged. Papa Ugwegu, thank you. Professor Bakari, I will not fail to thank him. Late Professor Bakari. He played a significant role in my life and in my academics. Professor Charles Uwakwe. Professor Falaye is seated here. Thank you, ma'am. Professor Moronkola, Professor Emeka, Professor Olowu, Professor Obot, Professor Okuropo, Professor Adekoye, Professor and Mrs. Stanley Okafor, and my daddy, Professor Imwagene Baba Mosa. Thank you, sir. He is here. Prof was the head of department when I was admitted for the MSc in criminology. And my in-laws, I don't call them in-laws, they are my brothers and sisters, Mrs. Masheyi, Professor and Mrs. Shegun Osinowo, Barrister Kende Osinowo, thank you very much. And to my darling husband. Woo-hoo! I thank you, sir. I met him as a second-year student nurse, and he has contributed immensely to my development. As I finish one program, he says, darling, move on, next one. I thank you very much. My children, late Tokumbo Osinowo, late Engineer Osinowo. She's not forgotten. She should have been here today. I should have given this lecture in March, but my dean and members of the faculty board allowed the turbulence in my life to stabilize. I thank you very much. Professor Egwahide, my spiritual fathers, all written in the book. I thank you.